last session of the conference. Today we will be talking about social integration to group development, and our presenter is going to be Dr. Lomelli. Now, Dr. Lomelli is an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. She has studied at the University of Texas Pan American, Texas College, and Texas A&M University. Since 2015 in UTRGV, she has done more than 25 online courses with over a total of 2,000 students. Her research interests include immigration and identity, race, ethnicity, environmental sociology, and criminology. Dr. Lomelli is a Valley native and student advocate.
Hi everybody, how's everyone doing? So one of the great things about being in person is that I get to show myself off. Usually I am behind the computer, and the only time my students see me is on my welcome video, which they'll see my spunky self and I'll be like, hey. And then after that I don't let them see me. That's just for me because I tend to notice that people are looking at how I talk and all of my expressions versus looking at the actual content, especially online. Like in person, you can just go back and forth, but usually they'll like zoom in on one thing. So I like to make sure that everybody's focused on the presentation at hand. So today what we're doing is we are trying to connect social integration through group development online. So how do we make sure that the groups that we build are actually beneficial for our students? Do we just place them in there? What is going on when we're thinking about group development? So Emile Durkheim is a French sociologist. He's the one who was discussing social integration. Now, social integration is the degree to which an individual feels connected to the other people in their group or community. Part of my classes is, yes, we connect with each other, but yes, we also have to connect to our communities. So building this connection online is a little bit difficult if we think about it. And the information I'm providing you today is something that I've had to go through a building process myself. And so one of the things that we have to take away from this presentation is that it is a process. So anytime I'm telling you something, just keep in mind, it is a process. And so over the years, I've been developing how I treat my students in terms of group presentations, group projects, group development, and how that has changed as well because of all the training and awesomeness that Colt has provided by CTE. Also, Christian Kroll also has a discussion on group building for psychology. And so you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of everybody's training and trying to implement it the best you can to your course. Now, sociology lends itself for this discussion because we're actually talking about society, and society is groups of people, right? And so what we're doing is looking at a macro version and bringing it down to the micro version. And so we're implementing what sociology already knows into the group levels. So today we're going to be talking about the importance of groups, social integration itself, and groups, theory implementation, theory and practice. We're going to try things out. We're going to incorporate UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning, what that looks like in my classroom, an assignment distribution over the semester to help you better build these groups, and then a little bit of feedback of what I've learned from my students and some retention numbers. So why are groups important? Well, you're going to notice that once you have groups, they're going to be able to start talking to each other, right? How many times have you walked into a location and you know no one? How does that feel? Awkward, right? Like, how do you turn around like, hi, what's your name? If you notice on the first day of school, students usually sit in that classroom and nobody talks to each other. They're just quiet. You can hear a pin drop. And you're wondering, why in the world is nobody having a conversation? Well, what this does is it provides a way for us to go the extra mile and provide that conversation for them, right? What can I ask them? So oftentimes people are like, well, what are some icebreakers? Well, some people don't know any icebreakers, and they're like, well, I don't know. What should I ask? What's your favorite color? Where do I go? How's the weather? And so that kind of brings into a little bit. So what I do with the groups is I allow them to have that. Then what we're doing as allow them to actually learn and practice sociological concepts and research methods. So part of sociology is interviews, so you have to build rapport. And so on the first day of class, I have everybody in person interview each other. Hey, how are you doing? How do you make sure that that person's friendly? And allow everybody to get up and move around. So we'll be doing that today. You're gonna love it. We'll also provide students guides to improve their group organization and planning. So we're giving them the steps to understand their structure and the culture that they're building inside. It provides accountability. What I've noticed is if you only do group assignments, let's say beginning or at the end, it's gonna fail. Usually that's what happens. But if you build the groups over a period of time and you also continue to have group assignments throughout the entire semester, they start asking each other, did you do the quiz? What did you score? Did you have a higher grade? And so then they start competing against each other. Or hey, don't forget to take this. Do you remember about the extra credit? We need to complete that. And so what it does, it builds that community because they're always interacting with each other. Yes, they get periods of time off, but they come back and have a discussion again. And I also like to let them know that yes, these skills of having only online, no contact whatsoever in person, allows them to build this skill set for their employers in the future, because we see that oftentimes people cannot be going from one location to the next. They actually have to do a conference. And how do you build a network and a group when you've never met the person? And so this helps them do that and build future networks. Oftentimes people tell me, well, what if this person, especially in the introduction course, well, I'm never going to see these people again. And that's not true. I have friends that are here on campus that I met in classrooms, in communication, in kinesiology, in math, and they are now professors. And I'm like, whoa, hi, how are you doing? And you never know who you're going to run into. And so I try to get them to keep that in mind, especially when job opportunities are open, when new skill sets are developing, when people are publishing, you want to stay connected. So I kind of bring all that into the discussion. So for Durkheim, let me just give you some theory. Now I won't take too long on theory because then you're going to be like, ugh. And that's understandable. The gist of it is that when we had pre-modern society, we had individuals, let's say, all live in a small community. This was their town, right? For Durkheim, this was considered mechanical solidarity. Now, when we talk about modernity, we see large populations, and they all have something that they work on, right? We're just going to do this for now. So this is mechanical solidarity, where each person independently works on their craft and they rely on trading or some form of understanding between them. The way they believe and their belief system is mostly religious. And when we talk about organic, we're interdependent, that we all specialize on something, but we rely on each other to make sure that our day-to-day lives continue to flow successfully. When we're online, we want to be able to use both. It's not enough to have one or the other, because then you're not going to be able to reach our students. I see the classroom as this, but I want to make sure, yes, we're all interdependent. We have to make sure that we communicate with each other, that we're bringing together our skill set, but we also want to make sure that we develop individually, right? So where we're self-sustainable. And yet we still have some options available, and we still have people, we have rules that we need to follow. Durkheim theory of social integration is when we do not integrate sufficiently into our society, people start then either falling under chaos, right? We either don't follow the rules, or, and I'm going to bring up this topic, is that he discussed a lot of patterns in suicide. And so what he noticed is when people were not social integrating, then they would commit suicide. So for us, for the classroom setting, it would be when students do not integrate, they drop out. So now they are off the radar. And the last thing we want to do is for them to leave education, higher education, when it's just a matter of changing a couple of things. Now, what causes people to start to not be self-integrated, not to provide that is, 1, they don't know how to ask for help. 2, we're not providing the resources, or they're not aware of those resources. And also the fact that there's no way of us to monitor who's not doing what. So all of these little things that we get notifications for, like someone's not turning in their homework, reach out, because it's a way for us to make sure that that connection is still together. So what I tried to do is, with the assignments, I want to focus on a couple of things. 1, their communities and their lived experiences. We want to be able to place value and appreciation for their culture and their structure. We want to be able to make sure that they're practicing their research methods with friends and family. So we're bringing in the community. We're making sure that the group itself has an equal division of labor. We want to provide real-world experience, provide them agency, build knowledge by starting together, and student success. So how do I translate this into group projects? Well, first things first, does everyone know how to navigate Blackboard? Well, it's funny that, yes, like a car, right? You get in, you have to have a driver's ed course. Well, sometimes not always, right? Sometimes just get in, turn it on, and hope for the best, right? That's happened, especially when you're learning at 14. But we want to make sure that all the students start off in the same place. So making sure that we give them detailed instruction. So I provide them not only written out instructions, but I also do a video, and a how-to video at that. So I make sure that I'm following, this is how you log in, this is how you do all of that. And so that way, anybody who's new, who hasn't been to school in a while, or has never been in an online course, knows how to do this without any problem. So our focus is not, how do I do this? It's, what should I be doing now? Right? So they're focusing on the concepts and what they have to do and for your assignment versus, I don't even know how to get to that link. What am I supposed to be doing? So they're focusing on something else and they're really not able to express themselves the way they want to. So you want to facilitate all that by already giving them that how-to. Now, I'm going to go into what it looks like. So this is the first assignment that I do, is an introduction assignment. Now, when I do that, so you'll see that it's intro. This is not really working that well, but it's an intro assignment. It's group assignment 1. It's pre-group assignment 2, group assignment 2, group assignment 3, and individual assignment 2. Okay. Individual assignment 1 is this. Pretty much what they're doing is they're getting to know each other. How many times have you looked at your roster and it keeps changing for the first 3 weeks? It's horrible. And it's horrible for the students too, because they're just trying to figure out, who am I working with? So for the first 3 weeks of the year, of the semester, I give them introductory assignment 1. They have to do these questions, post to 4 other people they want to work with, make sure that they get that connection settled and formalized, like, yes, I will be working with you, get their information, and then I have them download Respondus and Blackboard browser. Blackboard IM, sorry, so that they can attend office hours. And this way, they have a way to communicate through group chat. And I do that to facilitate first, just navigating and getting to know each other. So what I want you to do really quickly is everybody get up. And try to get in a group of 3 that you do not know. So probably these individuals should change across the... Do you all know each other? No? Anybody? Okay. All right. So you want to pick a space. You can move around the chairs any way you like, but try to sit together. And what I want you to do is answer these questions. So one of the things that I remind my students, which is exciting, right? Each one of these questions falls under a category of structure or culture for sociology. So we're already implementing these items without them even realizing it. So as they go through the lessons, they're going to be like, oh, we already decided our group culture or our group structure. And so consider these items as you talk to each other. So I'll give you 5 minutes, or I'll give you 2 minutes to denote. 5 minutes is good, right? 5 minutes is good, okay, to discuss this really quickly.
So we're doing the first one.
Yes.
What is my major goal for better building for my class? I'm gonna say what she said. I love what she said. I do love my favorite TV show, Walking Dead. Oh my God. Right now we're into Black Pineapple. I like medical dramas, like Chicago. Yes. Oh God. Place the following three items in order of importance: economy, environment, and family. Family, environment. You know, family is the word. Yes, but you know what was hard? I would put family first, but unfortunately, everything else comes
home. If we look at it in the personal context, I mean, ideally, it's family.
And you know, that can even go be a work thing too, because you have your work family, your work environment.
You guys didn't want to be in groups? Which question are you on?
Number 2.
Oh, okay, you're picking your show.
Okay, number 3.
Mine sin tu mirada. That's my novela. What group number are you on?
Number 3, when you're asking about economy and environment, do you mean like the economy and the environment, or do you mean like the economy and environment of your personal?
It depends. So that's open to interpretation. So students have the ability to discuss openly and freely about like what their choice is to discuss it. And oftentimes when they're doing it, they're focusing on the classroom setting, or if they're business majors, they're looking at one thing, or it just depends. So it gives them that freedom to discuss it in their chosen manner.
Communication, I think, is the key. Sometimes don't talk to each other. Sometimes good to
You guys have one?
So for building successful teams,
Mm-hmm.
I had said communications as well as
You said teamwork,
you know, activities, having more interaction. You had said
Roles and
keeping
making sure.
keeping it positive. Keeping positive.
Okay.
And for me, I think understanding and respecting each other's schedule from the beginning. Like, I'll have people that'll say, she works at night and then she's not available when we need to meet. And so, well, did you develop a schedule? And I need to get better at helping them develop those respectful schedules of time zones to be online.
Yeah, and we need to understand that everyone's different. Because I can be like, let's go, 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 go. And somebody's like, I can. Yeah. You're faster. Annoying too, right? Like, I'm annoying. I already.
Okay, you have less than 1 minute.
One person leads always. Leadership is shared.
Like you say, it depends on the team that you have. Because you have that some team members that just don't communicate and don't like to, or they'll make excuses, not participate.
And if it's shared and then one doesn't lead, naturally it's gonna go to number one. Yeah, to me, the ideal is shared, but everyone has to be responsible and they're ready to.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, if I can have everyone's attention. So what did you learn? Did you all have a lot of things in common? Yes? Here? Yeah, don't look too convinced. Yeah. 3 yes, 2 no? Did you all have a lot of agreements? You're still talking. Okay. Their group's still dealing with. So if you notice, time, wait. All right. So the wonderful thing when you're in person is you get to have an active classroom. I love it when everybody starts talking, and that's the way it is from the moment they walk in to the moment they leave. And that's what I wanted for online. The moment they started the class, they decided to have a group. They had a group of people that they could rely on for any questions, concerns, and to build on their community, right? And so that's what we're seeing now. I'm trying to get your attention, and you're still going, and that is wonderful. So one of the things that I do is, again, your major goal. So they're already telling you what do they value. That's part of culture. Your favorite TV show. That opens up a whole realm of discussion. We have students that like Grey's Anatomy. We have others that like novelas. We have others that like Dexter. And they go into a long, heated debate about who's better and why. And so that's something that we have a day-to-day life. Now, in terms of the following 3 items of importance: economy, environment, and family. This one is always one of my favorites because 1, it's open to interpretation, and 2, people's rationale for why they choose it differs. So when they're building groups, they're becoming aware of what you value, what you like to do daily, and a little bit about what your goals are, right? Now we're going into this idea of what do you think makes a team successful? So you're asking them for their opinion. And the idea behind this is that we're trying to have a set of values and a structure that we can agree on. And our availability is already agreed upon. So online, they'll tell you when they are available, and they tell them each other about each other concerning the structure and goals they expect for that particular group. So they're already telling you, this is what I expect of you for the semester. And so this is just the beginning. So based on this shared common values and beliefs that we see in mechanical societies, they're instilling inside their groups. So they're already agreeing on, yes, we have the same goals, we have the same values, and we believe that we should have the same structure for our group. And then we go into group assignment 1. So now you've already selected who you're being a part of. Now we're gonna start breaking down things that cause problems in groups. Why didn't you do what you said you were gonna do? What are you doing? Where have you been? So you need to know, when are we meeting? What happens if there's a disagreement? Is there somebody else that's going to be decider, ruler, judge? Are we having a democratic vote on who's right and wrong? Are you getting kicked out? Because we have standards, and if you don't meet the standards, you are leaving my group. And I've had several emails where at the beginning, they did not respond. We kicked them out. Did you agree on that? Yes, we agreed on that. This is the next assignment. We are all in a unanimous decision. They are out. And I go back to their first assignment for their group assignment, and I see what they all agreed on. And if it's agreed on, and you knew, this is also part of mechanical society in the sense that they have a set of structures built up to implement any kind of punishment, right? So if you're being deviant, you are going to be punished. And so that's already included as well. So at the end of the semester, you'll have groups that A, you work well with, and B, you'll have an opportunity to get a second chance. If you do get kicked out, you go into the deviant group. And so everybody, yeah, but the thing is, it's like everybody who got kicked out gets into one group, and they learn their lesson. And that group turns around and says, okay, everybody, you better do what you said you're going to do because I promise I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. And if there is nobody else in there with them, then they have to do individual work. So they had the option. So they have sanctions, right? So I incorporate criminology also into the and it gives them an ability to say, okay, I was wrong, I did this. And I can ask them again, are you sure you want to kick them out, or do you want to wait one assignment and then have them come back to prove themselves? And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no. Like, no, I am not going to deal with them anymore. So I want you to look over these 5 questions. I have 11. So, for instance, do they want a leader or not? That's important. What kind of roles do we set up in our course? In our group. Is it moderator? Is it leader? Is it participant? Is it someone timekeeper, schedule checker? And the wonderful thing is that they have the ability to add on roles. So I just give them suggestions, but they actually determine who they implement, what role, and they can decide whether or not they're going to be alternating or not. So is this my leader position as a leader for the entire time? And some students become dictators. So we got to be careful for that. But it is something that they decide upon. What day and time should they meet? Where? They should meet online. So as a rule of thumb, no one is allowed to meet in person ever. That is to keep safety for our students. Oftentimes we have dual enrollment students. They are not able to meet at 2 o'clock in the morning because sometimes other people have jobs during the day and the only time they can meet is at 9. So to avoid all that hassle and to avoid any confusion or any incidents, what I try to do, everyone is online only. And that makes it safe for individuals, but also it gives them that practice. But they're not trying to cheat and say, okay, I'm going to meet you at Starbucks and we're going to log online. No, I don't want to hear any of that. And if I find out, then there's sanctions as well. Again, criminology. I used to be an adult probation officer, so you could see where this is coming from. All right. Also, what if there's disagreements? Are there going to be a vote? Does the leader decide? What are the goals of the group for the course? So they also have to determine, okay, we discussed what we wanted, but as a group, what are we agreeing to? What happens if we can't participate in a particular assignment? What will happen? Do you have to tell your other individuals as soon as possible? Say I am going to have, sometimes students leave for academic events, others for athletic events, and so they don't always have the ability to log on. I tell them, let your partners know. Let everyone know so that we can make arrangements. You can still do the assignment on your own. Just let me know, we'll work it through. There's always options. I just want them to get the practice with their groups, but if they can't, we'll find something else. I had one individual this semester tell me, my group members are MIA, I cannot find them. I said, okay, you can still complete the project, but it asks for 5 different images. And I said, okay, well, you can ask your sisters or your cousins or your friends or anyone you possibly know to pick an image and send it to you. And it was just like, we were talking about gender norms. And so we're talking about what is media's representation of the ideal man or the ideal woman. And then you're supposed to each pick out an image so that they can look at the images, from those images get patterns. And from those patterns, bring in journal articles, additional readings that I provided for them to connect, right? So I'm trying to get them to see what's around them, what are we talking about, where's the connection, and who can you bring in to this discussion? So oftentimes I have them interview their cousins or their friends, anyone that they could possibly know, but it also has to be through the internet or through phone. They cannot do it in person. So they are forced again to interact in a different kind of way than they would normally do, let's say like going in person and saying, hey, let's have some cafecito, right? It's different. All right. So what are the responsibilities for each of the following roles? So we identify what roles they want to exist and what is defined, like what does that role mean? So being a leader means that I'm going to check up on A, B, and C group member twice a week. And I'm going to make sure that they submit in their assignment. And you just can't be monitoring. You have to provide information as well. what are the top rules? So be on time, be respectful at all times, and their values. So in consistency, integrity for the group to ensure a positive working environment. From the first day they see on the syllabus is you must be respectful and treat this class as you would any kind of employment. So when you're emailing me or your fellow peers, you have to address them. No Facebook texts, no emoticons, use titles. Make sure you ask them their pronouns so that you know what to use in the information. So I'm also trying to be an ally by showing them that there's different ways to discuss their identity, and actually understanding that I have my own preferences, what are those, and trying to learn from there. We also want to identify who will take on a role within the group for group assignment too. So not only am I preparing for the assignment that I'm in, but I'm already preparing for the next assignment. So who's taking up these roles? So automatically when that happens, they can already start. They're not like, I don't know. And then that just to understand and agree on those items takes time. Everything online takes time. So the first introduction assignment was the first 3 weeks. Gives anybody who's in and out of the class the option to introduce themselves, see if this is a good fit. If they want to drop the class, that's fine. But for those who stay, then they already know who they're working with. And then group assignment 1, they're going through all of this. So they're talking to each other about their beliefs, what they're planning on for their structure and culture for their particular groups, what to expect, how to go about it. So I'm helping them, guiding them through their group building. Now, where does universal design for learning come into this, right? Like all left field, but really it's not. So everything I've told you up to now are things that we've incorporated. If you notice your piece of paper that I handed to you, anybody missing one? You're missing one? Okay. So mine is in color. Mine is in color, but yours is in black and white. You know printing, how that goes. I mean, I don't have to explain. But we want to make sure that we provide, for the groups, what we're looking at is really engagement and forms of expression and communication. So action and expression and also engagement. In terms of representation, I do a couple of things. So yes, I do videos to let everybody know what to do, how to navigate things. I walk them through the steps of each group assignment, each individual assignment, so they already know what I'm expecting, any tips that may be beneficial, anything problems that may have arose before that I found solutions to. And I give them that bit of information on a video that already has auto-generated text. Now, universal design for learning, does everyone know what that is? Some of you don't. So in case you don't know what universal design for learning is pretty much allowing individuals to gain access, right, in all different types of forms, so that way there's not necessarily a need for accommodations. We're already able to access the information without much difficulty, right? So for instance, we can take an escalator. We don't necessarily need it, but it's provided for you in case you do. What this looks like online is, let's say you have a video. If you don't have captions, what does that do? Well, it might be a problem for some individuals. Maybe they have to work, and the only time that they're able to look at their screen is by cheating, right? They're like, yes, hi, how are you doing? And then they look down. And they're reading along what you're saying in your lecture, right? What about if maybe English isn't your first language? This helps them to build their vocabulary, to recall what you're saying, and to make sure that they understand the concepts and terms that you're saying. Especially when they're out of left field. You haven't heard these. I'm like, what is that jargon? I don't know what you're talking about. What is that word? I can go look it up. I can pause the video. I can go look it up and not have an issue. Now, if I knew sign language during, you're able to record yourself. So if I knew sign language, I could record myself doing sign language as I spoke and the subcaptions came on. So that gives you the opportunity to reach multiple individuals at the same time without having any break in accessibility for anyone, right? And that's the goal, is to really make it accessible to everyone. So what I do with the groups is that I'm allowing them multiple ways of representation, so understanding what's coming to them in terms of concepts. And I use videos, I use my own lectures, I use how-to videos, and I want to make sure that, and I still reach out to them, do you have any questions? Are you sure you don't have any questions? And they can get annoyed, but I want them to be annoyed versus lost. Like, I don't care if I have to be that person, as long as, one, they know what they're doing, how to do it, and they do it. And they successfully do it, right? That's what matters. In terms of the groups for action and expression, you have multiple media for communication, use multiple tools for construction and composition. During the groups, we provided executive functions. We guided them with appropriating goal settings, support planning and strategy development for implementing those tools, right? Facilitating managing information and resources. So we already let them know, what should you be doing? What's going on? And a capacity for monitoring progress. You're not leaving these groups out in the dark. Each of these group assignments is for a grade. So you're continuously monitoring over the semester their progress as group development occurs throughout the assignments. Now for engagement, how am I doing on time? Okay with time? Got 13 minutes? We got this, okay. For engagement, we provide them individual choice and autonomy. How did we do that with your groups? What did you notice? What are some of the things that you noticed?
Yeah, we did get to choose, walk to a person.
You got to choose who you were in the group with. You do that online. You got to choose what kind of structure you had, what were your goals, how you would communicate. So you have the ability to have that freedom. Everybody has a similar number of individuals, right? But so that's part of the mechanical. We have the same sizes, but we have a lot of autonomy. So we have the ability, a lot of agency. We have the ability to have that choice to design and implement it as we choose. And so you're giving them both of these worlds together to help them. In terms of relevance, value, and authenticity, minimize threats and distractions. How did we do that? How did we minimize threats and distractions?
Kind of talk about what do we like and then kind of getting common ground.
So common ground.
By giving them options of what to do when things go wrong. Like already deciding that beforehand.
Yeah, so before anything actually happens that could go wrong, we're already planning for it, right? So we're minimizing that. And we also all agreed on that this would be a respectful assignment. So no one's joking around. As I tell them, you're always to be professional. You can always be friends, but you must stay professional. So there has to be a level across. And we also provide them with options for self-regulation. Again, they don't have to necessarily decide that they're going to get kicked out of a group if they don't do what they want. But that has been the choice of many groups thus far. All right, hold on. I want to show you something. So so you want to write down www.udlcenter.org. This is the UDL, National Center on Universal Design for Learning. What this does is, you see your handout? You can check your own classrooms to see how you're doing. And you do that by going to each one of these, and you click on it, it's a link. Now, can I provide this to Colt so that they can, okay. And that way you'll get the PDF, you'll get this PDF, and anytime that you click on one of the sentences, you'll go to a new link. Or you can just go here and you can go down. Each one provides you what it means and a little checklist about how you can go about it. And so that'll help you out in terms of checking that your course is UDL friendly. Minutes. Okay. So So this is something that we've already discussed. So what do our groups do in terms of universal design for learning? We lead by example. We're showing them each step of the way. We're providing instructions on how to do this. We include in assignments as well. Skills learned now can be seen as second nature in the future and increase in UDL facilitators. Okay, so what I want to do and what this is talking about is, yes, it's wonderful to develop groups, but what you want to do is then make sure that when your group assignments, yes, we've reached out to peers, we've reached out to our community, but we also want to make sure that they're implementing skills for accessibility. So if you're requiring them to do a PowerPoint presentation, already have teaching them how to do alternative text. Already teach them how to do captions. How do you do that on YouTube? And if you don't know, Colt's awesome. They can help. We also have an accessibility learning group community. So if you want to join, let me know. We have these discussions once a month. And so they were talking about what are learning communities involved. We have an accessibility learning community. So you can just email me and I can send that to you right away. But what we want to do is make sure that if the students implement their UDL design already in their projects, then when it comes to what their fields are in, let's say you have nursing or you have engineering or you have sociology, they're already thinking about how can I apply this to my job in the future. Because UDL is going to be something that's coming to the forefront and that's going to be required of everybody. So you might as well start learning now so you become an expert in that field, right? So you can start already knowing how to implement it, what are they talking about, and how can I make it even better. And your students, if they already learn this as undergrads, can you imagine how proficient they'll be as graduates and already working in their field? So that's my goal with these group assignments. For group assignment 2, so we'll have introduction, they're getting to know each other. Group assignment 1, they're now in the group, now they're discussing about their structure and culture. Pre-group assignment 2 is just, what are we doing for group assignment 2? When are we meeting? What first day? Like, by when do you have to read the assignment? When do we discuss it? How does that build out? And then group assignment 2 will have a purpose, a task, a how. So the purpose is, why are we doing this assignment? How does that tie back into your classroom learning objectives? The task, what are we really doing? What's the overall goal? I'm doing this assignment so I can build skills on my research methods, or that I can reach critical thinking with additional readings from journal articles, different authors and different theorists, right? Provide a how. So how do we actually complete this project? Where do I have to click, right? Because you know online you have to click everywhere. Rubric, what counts? What are you really looking for? So be able to explain that. You'll have detailed instructions. I usually provide a template. So my templates look like this. So I'm going to try to hurry. So this is my assignment. I have the purpose, the task, where to go, which is how. I give them analyzing the additional reading. They have 10 additional reading assignments that are mandatory and are implemented in with the assignments. They're simple things, and they'll have just critical thinking questions, a general thing, like what's the main purpose? What I do is I show them how to think about this. I just don't want an answer. I want you to have an overall group answer, a quote from the text which supports the group's answer, in ASA, in-text citations. So I'm already teaching them about in-text citation, about sourcing, and I explain how the quote reflects representing the group's response. So what are my ideas? How do I get it supported by facts? And then what does this connection mean? And so I'm trying to get them into that argumentative formatting already started to be implemented by their first class in sociology. So that already as they build down the line, they already know what to do. So I'm trying to help them with that. Just by looking over just main topics, like what's the purpose? What are the key questions? Can you read what the article is saying? And that's how I'm checking if they get it or not. For the quinceañera article, it talks about the traditions, not only in the community, but also in the church and how they have changed over time. And so what they do is, yes, they're reading about it in a journal article, but then they actually have to reflect on it in terms of their group members. So for instance, I asked them about their setting, and I'll have them talk to each other about it. So in terms of the church ceremony, talk to me about it. How long was the church ceremony? Were there decorations? Were there madrinas or padrinas? And you'll have students that have never gone to a quinceañera. That's perfectly fine. What is a coming of age celebration that you've attended or participated in? And so by bringing that in, then their responses differ. Or they're exactly the same. It just depends. So they get to experience other cultures and yet celebrate theirs. And that's one of the things that growing up here, I wasn't able to do. As a Valley native, oftentimes our culture was set aside. I mean, I'm an 80s, 90s kid, so you can imagine at that time there was even less resources. And so this allows us to bring to the forefront value to the culture and traditions that we have here in the Valley, and have the opportunity for students to share that not only with their peers, but also with their families. Like, hey, guess what? My professor asked me to ask you about this. And they get excited because now they're sharing their stories. Where that story might have not been shown, it's now being expressed. And so that really helps, especially with first generation college students. I know if I would have had assignments like this, I'd have been like, yes, Mom, what's going on? Like, and she would have been so thrilled. But oftentimes what was the reality was, I don't know, because I didn't get to go to college. So I don't understand, one, the language, or two, what that experience is like. So I can't help you. So go figure it out. And the wonderful thing about go figure it out was not, she didn't tell me to stop. She said, try to resolve your problem. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is yes, we can have situations, but we can also find solutions. One of the things that I do also in the course is I get student feedback. So it's not just about the assignments and what I think is working. I actually ask them, do you find that there was a situation in your class, in your group? Because after, one of the things, I'm sorry, before I'm going to be cut off soon, but I always have them reflect. I think this is imperative. Christian Croyle helped me to see how important this was. So my first semester of lecture in 2015, she was doing the discussion on groups. She had us do this. We were reflecting. So make sure that whatever situation you're having is that you reflect with your group. Make them look at what they're doing. Is my team structure working? Are my roles effective? Can they be changed? If they can be, let's do it. Let's change them. We don't have to stay the same throughout the entire semester if it's not working. We can have that change. What are some things that can facilitate what we're doing? What can we do that makes things easier for us? And that's something that you don't necessarily need to know the answer for, that they themselves can bring to the table. And most importantly, who did and did not participate. Oftentimes, when we use wiki pages on Blackboard, I don't know how many of you have used wiki pages. Some of you have. Wiki pages allows groups to have kind of like a Google Docs, but it's not like as soon as you type in, the change is going to show. It's not going to reflect. You have to actually click submit, and then they'll get the updated version of that. But groups don't necessarily put their information and everything, all their discussion on this wiki page. So when it comes to checking on participation, if you click who participated and who doesn't, it might just show one person, but they're just actually submitting everything that they discussed. So the way I do it is have them write it in. And if there's anybody saying, well, I did participate and they didn't, it's just send out a friendly email. Hey, can you support that this person did this? And people will be like, no, I can show documentation. I reached out to them on this date. They did not answer. That's not true. They did not help with the assignment. Or, oh, you know what? That is true. And I messed up. I should have included them. So that helps tremendously. So I'm going to close that real quick. How to plan out your groups. What has worked for me is I have the introductory assignment for the first 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how we're doing in terms of adding and dropping days. And then group assignment 1 is 2 to 3 weeks. The week in between group assignment 1 and 2, I give them a guide of what to expect. Then group assignment 2, we have again 2 or 3 weeks. Then I provide a short individual assignment in between that. And then again, the last assignment is 2 to 3 weeks. So it's usually like 15 weeks, and then you have the last week just off so that they can focus on studying. And this really helps because you're allowing them to express themselves as individuals in your assignments and also within the group to have that collective. So groups also serve as a way to practice their skills without being, without having that penalty so severely punished. Let's say I didn't know what to do in the assignments and I didn't want to ask for help. Then I did a terrible job. Then their grade is going to reflect it. But if they had a group that could help them through, let's say someone is stronger in reading journal articles and the other person is stronger on building arguments, they can help each other out. So they're learning the skill set without as much pressure. And this really helps to build their relationships. I've had some positive feedback. They really like it. They feel like they've been in person in the course online. And some of the negative things is just, how do we build a better group? How do I make sure that the people I agree with are going to also follow through with what they say? You know? In terms of retention, and these are just general numbers, of all my spring and fall classes, when I do this group setting, I usually have like 5 students drop. Not that many. Without the groups, it's 10 to 20 students, like fast, because people lose track of assignments, they lose track of quizzes, they lose track of exams. If they miss one exam, they panic. That's it. And so if you've already lost them in the beginning and then they just kind of snowball, then they feel hopeless. And so by doing the groups, it helps them, it eases them in, and it helps to make sure that they have accountability and they keep having a community online. And again, these class sizes that I have are 110 to 80, so it just depends. But that retention, I think, is really good in terms of the group projects and what that has meant for our students. One of the things that I want to let you know is that if you ask your students for feedback, they will provide it. I always tell them, you can complain all you want, but provide me a solution. Okay? I don't mind negative feedback, but show me or tell me what you think is the best solution for this problem. Again, coming back to problem solving. I'm all ears. So if you have any questions, any feedback, please let me know. Thank you.